Hello. Like many people, I was shocked and appalled by the remarks of Baroness Jones that we should have a 6 p.m. curfew for men in the wake of the murder of Sarah Everard, just because one man, indeed one police officer, commits an act of violence against a woman late at night. Somehow the solution is to demonise all men and criminalise them just because you decide you want to have a walk round the block late at night, which is something I will do on occasions if I feel like it. And whilst I wish to be sympathetic to the friends and relatives of the victim and anyone suffering as a result, and I don't wish to make any bold claims here, I find it hard to believe that this murder and the subsequent remarks about curfews is all just happening by coincidence. I believe that very little of what gets reported in the news and gets national attention is just coincidence. These are stories that are being pushed to fulfill certain agendas. Now, you might say, well, this was just a silly remark. It's never going to happen. There's no way they could implement a 6 p.m. curfew. There's no way people would accept it. And I'm pleased to see that on social media, there was a lot of negative reaction towards it. However, the problem is that when such an extreme idea is suggested, by a politician, you are shifting what is called the Overton window. Now, the Overton window is basically the range of policies that would be acceptable to the mainstream public. So at the moment, curfews, especially for one particular agenda or for certain groups, are not acceptable to the British public. However, if you suggest something as extreme as a 6 p.m. curfew for men, all of a sudden, if you were to implement, say, a 10 p.m. curfew for men in a few spots where there's been a few knife crimes against women or few rapes and all that sort of thing, if you were to suggest that, then all of a sudden that becomes a bit more reasonable and becomes a bit more acceptable to the public. And this is very, very dangerous. And this has been going on with the whole COVID regime. I remember early on, during the first lockdown, after about a couple of weeks, Matt Hancock threatened to ban outdoor exercise, and I don't think that went down very well with the public. But the very notion of suggesting such a thing means that the lockdowns that we already had are not seen as so extreme. And this is also another case of divide and conquer, exactly as we've been seeing in the last year with the whole COVID regime. Priti Patel calls those of us who question the messages put out by the government about this so-called pandemic as stupid and ignorant. And by doing so, she is trying to create division, divide people between those of us who like to question things and actually go and investigate the facts and those who just believe whatever they hear on the BBC. They're deliberately creating this division to bring in their Agenda 21 New World Order plans. It's very, very sinister. And this also tells me that even if COVID went away, even if the threat of the virus goes, and it may well be that the wheels are coming off this scamdemic, so they can't continue to push this one, that this whole culture of divide and conquer, of problem, reaction, solution is not going away. They'll just phase out the COVID regime and phase in something else, some other excuse for lockdowns, some other excuse to remove more freedoms. So people need to get smart and realise and understand the psychology that is going on here. How they are shifting the Overton window so that tyranny doesn't seem so extreme. They are using divide and conquer tactics to pitch men and women against each other, to break down the family unit. Very, very sinister stuff. People need to get smart and understand the psychology that is being played here. Whether it is COVID, whether it is the climate change hoax, whether it is the whole issues with feminism and gender identity, it's the same thing. Problem, reaction, solution, divide and conquer. We need to get smart to it and we need to push back. Thank you.